So who actually is sick of the whole Zoom thing? Who's sick of, put your hands up if you're sick of Zoom. Who's sick of the whole video thing? Who doesn't like interactive presentations? See what I did there? Okay, so, we've got a clicker. Apparently Bob mastered this earlier, I was told. Nearly. So, can anyone tell me what this means? What this stands for? No, not sure? Okay, well, what about this? Anyone relate to that? And for my mum that's here, that actually means Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Someone can explain that to her later. So, but really, it has been a hell of a 6 months, and I know this is the first time everyone's back in the room together, and I know we're all a bit exhausted with it all, but we'll power on. So, I see in the whole COVID situation probably two phases. I see the 2020 BC and 2020 AC. So I think this is the effect it's probably had on a lot of us. It's aged us significantly, but we're all here today and we're all in a wonderful place called Newcastle. I'm going to do my best to ensure that everyone gets their $39 worth. For those that have paid $49, might be a bit of a stretch, sorry. So I'd like to just share some recent experiences and advice. We've all been through a tough time, as I've said, over the last 6 months. So there's a few learnings that I'd like to share. And I guess my approach is that there's a mixture of these things that go towards us being businesses of survival going forward. There's a few, just a little disclaimers before I start. Oops, sorry. So, firstly, I did 7 years of a 3-year course at Newcastle University and never finished. But I enjoyed myself, I can assure you. I'm both a Gemini and half Ukrainian, which makes me an emotional nightmare. I make as many mistakes as anyone else, but do my best to continue to learn, and I think that's important for all of us, to acknowledge our mistakes, and no one's perfect. As much as I have the honour of standing up here today, I've made just as many or more mistakes than anyone in this room, and it's about learning and moving forward. And lastly, my mum and my wife are here, and they're not the same person. So, some of the words, I think it would be completely inappropriate for me to capitalise on this opportunity with so many businesses in the room to talk about the extensive services Oots provides across digital strategy, production and creative. I think that would be inappropriate, so I think we'll just pass that opportunity. It would also be inappropriate to talk about the significant team that exists at Oots and capitalise on this opportunity to present those talented people. I think that would be a wrong thing to do and the wrong forum, let alone mention how many awards we've received over the years for our services to our clients and to the community. So if anything like that pops up, just let me know. The words that are banned today are pivot, new normal, Zoom, unprecedented and pandemic. I think we've all probably heard those words enough, so I'll do my best not to include any of them in today's presentation. So, as I said, I think I'm not very scientific, and I guess being a bit of a creative and a Gemini, I do try to put together a bit of a level of business acumen, but with, emotional acknowledgement and creativity. And I feel that these are 4 areas going forward that were very important. Both can survive, but both will be better together in terms of head and heart. And I guess I'd like to share that with you in terms of how that could merge and how it can benefit your businesses going forward. I think it's also important to get across that in 2020, despite what we think, it is actually still okay to have a feel. I think it's very important going forward that we all have a feel, that our brands have a feel, that us as humans have a feel. It's going to differentiate us. I think we've learnt during this period of, COVID's all right, I didn't have that on the list. During this period of COVID, that a lot of the fluff has fallen away. We really are about relationships and connections. So I think it's a serious recommendation that your brand needs to consider its feel as well as its own business abilities and talents. If we think about feel, if I was to say Rolls-Royce, Jeep or Tesla, I've not had one, owned one, touched one, but straight away I'm sure you've all got connotations as to what that brand might feel for you. If it's luxury, if it's saving the environment, if it's rugged or whatever, But straight away, you've got a connotation of a feeling, and that feeling is something those organisations have spent a lot of money in trying to establish, even though you may not have actually had connection with those vehicles. We all have been told, from when we're born, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. We've also been told first impressions count. So I think there's a lot to be said about the feeling you engage with somebody, and that's no different to a brand. So if you come away with a good experience or you've resonated with something, that means a lot. So I think sometimes, we rely a lot. As a boy, I'm not very good at reading, so I'm not very good with reading a lot of words at times, but visuals are my key. So, that's the emotive connection I get, and I feel something from that. Whereas, we can forget what we've said and what we've done, but the feeling you come away with, you'll always remember. You remember your first holiday overseas, that sort of thing. I guess the feeling that you had when you started this might be different, this presentation, than the feeling you'll get at the end of it. You might go, well, that was cool. You might go, well, I'm glad I didn't pay $49 and I only paid $39. But, so I'll just take you through some slides here. So I'd be curious, in less than 10 seconds, that's probably a bit of an emotional roller coaster. We've seen the pretty dolphin, but we've come away thinking, gee, maybe as humans we're a bit shit sometimes with putting stuff in the ocean, not taking care of the environment and things like that. We saw the devastation of war, but we see this lady, some 40 years later, surviving that war, flourishing and presenting. So, that's just 4 slides, and that emotion we would have felt in that period is pretty significant. And I guess on a much smaller scale, it's the same for a brand. It's no different. The presence that you put out there can quickly be judged by someone very quickly when they don't have we do judge quickly. It's, as much as we want to be, good people, we do jump the gun a little bit. And then our head then does follow, and I think that's where my sentiment comes in here. I could look at Bob and go, oh, well, geez, wearing a great jacket today, but it's a bit creased. Do I make a judgment on Bob's jacket, or do I later go, I probably do, and then later I go, was he in a hurry today, maybe something happened, all that sort of stuff. But our heart jumps out first. Our feeling comes first, prior to then our cognitive sense of processing a why. So that's why I think the first impression thing is very important. That's also why I did my assessment that this was blocked. So you didn't have to look at this for the whole thing and skew any part of it. So the way I'd break down feel is into 2 categories of customer perception and customer experience. Customer perception is, I guess, the intangible, where they haven't connected with your brand as yet. It could be a word of mouth, oh, do you know about XYZ, or did you hear about this business? It could be that you've seen someone sponsoring something and you've gone, well, okay, why does that connect? Why does that sponsorship connect with their values or brand? It could be just walking past a shop front. But you've gained a feel. From a customer experience point of view, you could have engaged directly with the product, bought something, had a business dealing, or attended an event. So you'll be making a judgment on a feeling through that engagement. Both are super important, but you really got to get the first one right before leading on to the second one. Otherwise you won't get to second base, as they say. I think it's also important, as much as I'm saying you've got to work to your brand to connect with your customers and have a feeling. I think it's very important today, more than ever, to understand that you can't keep everybody happy all the time. And I think, there's probably a lot of parents in this room, and I think, we're probably my age group and older, there was a very hard force about perfection and achieving and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's very important for all our mental health to understand that that's just not possible. It's actually good not to keep everybody happy all the time. I think if you want longevity, you're better off connecting with the right people under the right values than, I guess, probably putting a facade on just to connect. So don't feel bad if you, on occasions, have to swipe left. If you've got to say to a client, look, I'm sorry, this doesn't resonate, or to a staff member, it's not a bad thing. I think it's actually a very healthy thing, because the energy you put in to keep everybody happy all the time probably means you're not doing a good job on the ones that really matter. I guess some examples. Look, we've done this as Oots. We've definitely on occasion said, look, I'm sorry, it just doesn't gel for whatever reason. But to give you two examples of a swipe right, and on two different scales. The Greater Bank has a client for 6 years. We've just re-signed with them for a further 3, which is terrific. So that means it stays in Newcastle, because there's a danger those sort of growing accounts can go elsewhere. So I think it's terrific for the region that it stays here. But there's someone who values their personnel, cares about their customers, and values the region. So that relationship has been pretty much seamless for the 6 years we've had, and I'm hoping for the additional 3. It's not hard work. We actually enjoy it because our values align. And the other one, I guess on the other side of the scale, is we had a cleaner that used to come to our building who worked for another business, but he wanted to start up his own thing. So he said, look, I'm going to leave there, can you guys help me with branding? So he started as a one-off guy, Matthew's Cleaning, he now has staff, he now got trucks of his own, and I just think it's amazing, and that's I guess the other scale, but that resonates. That's somebody we go, look, this guy's having a go, he looks after his people, so to me that's a swipe right. And they're easy, I don't know, I know there's a variation of people in this audience, but if you've got customers like that you connect with and resonate with, the relationship's easy and the outcomes are much better. So, but don't worry, it's okay to swipe left. In terms of where you could start, I think we should, it's like if you've got to reassess where you're at now, and it's not a bad time, whether it's your own organisation or someone you work for, or a customer, it is a good time to reassess. And the way we look at a brand health check is effectively start from our purpose, vision, values and proposition. So this is Oots' own one. So our purpose, as in why do we exist, is to challenge the status quo. Our vision, which has got to be a big goal. A vision can't be something that can be achieved tomorrow. It's got to be, how big is this? So ours is to become a significant force in Newcastle, becoming a global success story. We could have probably easily put to be Australia's leading regional agency. But from my point of view, that's about us. That's very inward. Whereas my attitude is if we help this, if we achieve this, our success will come. It's not about the end goal of being the leading agency. It's about helping other people, doing this from within ourselves. That may lead to those outcomes, but if it doesn't matter. Like I just think the goal, your vision, if directed more at helping others, will have a greater success than making it all about you. Values, our Oots guys came up with this, and me 7 years ago, and they still resonate today. We've got own that shit, laugh, play, inspire, stop, collaborate and listen, and up the ante. As I say, that's 7 years old, and some of those team members have changed, but it still resonates. So if you can have a workshop with your teams and let them own that, let them come from that, because it's very easy as a business owner, especially a single business owner, to be the dictator. But that's, again, not a healthy long-term situation. So with people coming up with their own values is super, super valuable. And that's something that you'll have, staff that care about your business for a long time to come. And our proposition, which you'll see going forward, is defy expectations. So that's how we communicate that sort of thing. So, this can be a pretty elaborate process, but it can be pretty simple too. But it's a really good starting point to reassess where your business is at before you launch into going, we need a new logo, or, let's buy that bit of software or something. So it's just to recalibrate, I would suggest. Then you could break that down, this is the way I do it anyway, is in head and heart. Because I guess being a bit of a Gemini, I've got the bit of the creative and the bit of the business. And sometimes businesses have partners for that. They're complementary in their skill sets, so they can help each other. So my take on it is, if we start from the head, which is the logical, rational side of proceedings, your team is super important, but it's in this situation, you'd be looking at their qualifications, their CV and all that sort of thing. Do they qualify to be a member of your team? Then we might go to a logo. The logo really is your face. I would equate it to a business face. So, we all look at each other's face, but it's not the whole part of you. A logo is just a representation of your brand, but there's a lot more to you that makes up the brand. So, but a logo is a critical recall item that you can have. And again, you might want to look at reassessing that from where you are now, where you might have been 6 months ago. Does your business still, does your values, propositions and stuff still align to where they were 6 months ago, given what's happened? And to survive, you might want to just tweak those. A style guide, this might seem like a fairly simple document, but there's a lot of businesses that go, oh, we need a new logo, and whether they do that themselves or get someone else to do it, that doesn't really matter, but there's no rules around it. So when they design this logo and say, this looks great for these reasons, once that goes back into the organisation and someone says, my auntie's mother's cousin is a graphic designer, they can make a letterhead for you, they're doing your newsletters, they'll then maybe take their interpretation of that logo, and what's happening is your brand is diluting all the way through. Whereas by having something, and again, this could be a simple single page, we've got ones for the grader that are 20 pages, but I really strongly suggest you get this, because this is something that you can easily go off track, and it's much easier to work with, because you can send this to people and say, you're doing our coasters or you're doing our beer mugs or something. If they've got this, they can't bugger it up, and it just makes your life a lot easier and also protects your brand. Website, obviously, again, it's a good period of time to revisit your website just to ensure that you are communicating the right things to the right people. SEO is search engine optimization, so it's a bit like the logo. Once you've got your website, it might be all sexy and lovely, but if it's not organically working for you and people are searching your name and your terms, you've kind of wasted a fair bit of money. So it needs to be complementary to that. So I would suggest having some level of investment in that as well. Social media, it's about being consistent, in line with your vision and purpose, not so much random. We felt like that was a good thing to put up, which is, that's okay, the spontaneous stuff. But if you want the longevity of a customer who's loving you, try to be consistent with that process across the way. And be data aware. Again, this can be a bit yawny for some people, and I guess as a creative, I struggle sometimes to go, well, how is this sexy? But it is actually really, really sexy, because it gives you don't know what's working, and if someone in your organisation isn't monitoring something like Google Analytics, or you don't have Google Analytics on, as a tool to assess your website, you're again kind of wasting money a bit, because you're not actually assessing what's working and what's not. This graph, just as an example, is when we recently just boosted the Experience Hunter project, which was just on Facebook. So you can, and the orange line is the same period last year. So we go from around about 40, 50 visits to our website a day, which is okay considering, we're not selling Coca-Cola or something. But, that spike says to us, for the sake of the $500 we spent over, 10 days or something, we turned our visitation up 400% in the month of July. So that's awesome, but that could have gone the other way too. Either way, we know. So I just think, when you're putting campaigns together, just do have the back-end access to your Google Analytics. And there's a lot of businesses who have got web companies, designers, that are very protective about saying, oh, well, no, we'll give you that data. If you don't have access yourself and they're precluding you from that, that's not good. That's not a good relationship. It should be completely transparent, that you can log on and check at any time. As part of that Big Brother thing, I can tell that Amy opened our last EDM electronic newsletter 5 times at a certain time. So, I don't know who's got MailChimp and stuff, but again, it's a very cheap bit of software that gives you so much information. So, you put out a newsletter, you might have multiple articles on that newsletter. You can tell, A, who's opened that email, firstly, what time, how often they've opened it. Then you can see which articles have had the most success. All that information and data allows you to continue to adjust your communication. So, or from a sales perspective, I might go, well, gee, Amy's keen. God knows what's going on there. Let's give her a bell and say, Amy, look, it depends how invasive you wish to be, but but you can reach out and go, look, is there anything we can help you with? I'm not going to stalk Amy, but what's the point of having this stuff happening without some level of action on it? So and it's cheap. So, but I'd recommend looking into that for yourself.
$9.51 PM.
Well, got your 5 stars. If you'd like to jump onto Amy's TripAdvisor site later. Back to this. So surveys, I think don't be frightened to put surveys out with some consistency because the information is valuable. You know, you might hear things that you don't want to hear, but if you want to be a successful business, you don't have your head in the sand. You know, it's actually, the more you engage with your own team, the more you engage with broader people that are your customers that aren't your customers, the more knowledgeable you're going to be to address that going forward. So don't be scared of that. And business training, I think it's just investing in your team in terms of ensuring that they're as skilled as they can be. And look, I guess it's tough too. You know, we had so much invested on a yearly basis in training of our own team, which we've pulled back, obviously, in the last 6 months, but we've found alternatives. So we've got a lot more online than we did, and a lot of businesses that were once doing the face-to-face have actually, you know, kindly understood the issues and reduced their pricing anyway. So just keeping your team up to it. And business support, I'm going to say sorry to my accountant down the back, but you are in the head column, not the heart column. But that doesn't mean you haven't got a heart. But I think it's just, you know, having the right advisors. So, you know, be it solicitors, accountants, just experts in their field is a mandatory, in my mind, on the head side. Because you're a pretty incredible individual if you can do all that by yourself without having, be it mentors or educators around you that can call on that as a growing business. And then to heart, so the team is in both columns because as far as I'm concerned, and this has very much been an Oots thing in the 22 years that we've been going, I'd rather employ somebody who is a good person, who has a great personality and connects with the rest of the team. And then secondly, their skill set, if it's fractionally under what it needs to be on paper, we can work with that. Whereas I'd rather that way than having a superstar on paper that in theory is going to make me $1 million as a business owner, but they completely fragment the team. Because that's going to do a lot more, there's a lot more effort and undoing to resolve that than there would have been by picking that right person in the first place. So the team, I cannot say, certainly in our case, is the most valuable thing you'll ever be able to have. So, you know, looking after them and picking the right people is a no-brainer. Tone of voice, I guess it's, again, intangible because we talk about those EDMs and the website. I mean, to me, they're vehicles or tools. But if we talk about feel, what is that messaging coming back from your vision, your brand and your purpose? You know, are you consistent in that communication? So, I mean, you know, the three guys here might work with me. They all might go, I'm going to do tomorrow's EDM for the business. And if they're not kind of singing from the same hymn book in terms of our vision, purpose and values and so on, we're going to get three completely different approaches. It doesn't mean it needs to be homogenous. There's only, we're all robots. But if we're driving towards that goal of being a significant force in Newcastle, being a global success, there has to be nuances of all that communication as we go forward. So just getting everyone on side and getting those people who are your external facing people, whether it's attending events or the electronic way, just making sure your tone of voice is consistent. Morale goes back to the team aspect of things. We invest a lot of money in our staff, not just in training, but in alcohol. I think it is critical that the bond is great. The strength of that team, again, in our situation, is paramount. So, I do as much as I can to love the guys. We've had to pull back a little bit in the last 6 months, and just being sensible with finances. But, I'm not an owner, a business owner that thinks about raping and pillaging and taking how much money I can take out of the organisation. I'd rather be happy working in a place I enjoy for as long as I can, and if that means re-injecting and taking care of people, then I think that's what makes me happy to come to work, because I'm not coming to work to get the income, I'm coming to work to enjoy the people I work with and the work we do. Social consciousness, this could be a bit but more and more, I think, what do you stand for in terms of, who you might support or what your values are. There's no judgment on which one that might be, but I think it's important as a brand going forward to have that. It's not just enough to make widgets anymore. You've actually got to potentially stand for something and support something. So, whatever that might be, just consider that. And that may not come from you. If you're the business owner and you're flat out, that might not come from you, but engage with your team, and see what some of their things that they're supportive of. Because that, again, is a massive morale booster. If people go, this organisation actually cares about the things I care about as well. And I guess that comes to causes as well. And that might be, organisations you support. So, let's say you've done all that. Let's say you've already done all that as an organisation, and all that was like, well, that was a waste of $28, because that's where we're up to so far, probably. But, you might go, okay, I want to get to that point, But the thing that I'd really like to come out of today, more than some of that, I suppose, is the idea that regardless of how big or small you are, that we consider giving back. So that honestly can be very small or significant. And I think I would like to encourage the group here and the broader group, Newcastle and so on, whatever we can do to give back, I think is paramount. So, I mean, Oots, for example, I was driven over these last 4 or 5 months. We were pretty much, I think for us, D-Day was March 23rd. I don't know how other organisations kind of then went, elsewhere and home and so on. But from that very beginning, I was driven by a line from Hamilton, the musical, which was, history has its eyes on you. And I just thought, what can we do, what can I do as a leader and as a part of an organisation that can make a difference going forward? So during that period, going back a little bit forward, as Bob mentioned, Region Ready was something. There didn't seem a cohesive message coming out of the region at the time. And, we deal with, the single cleaner or the real estate agent or the airport or, the greater banks. So they're pretty diverse. But some of the small guys can't go and commission a $10,000 video, but they still want to say, how good is it to live in Newcastle? How good is it to invest in Newcastle? So we produced that video, which was basically a snapshot of the economic value and benefits of investing in becoming to the region or investing in the region, and we gave that away for free. So it just meant that, the local, we had, one of my favourite ones was the local veterinary organisation said, thank you, because we can now go and target better quality vets than we would have been able to get. I just say it's cool, that's just really satisfying from a feel point of view. Get your hand on one was a bit of fun, but also, to me this was the trifecta in the sense of we marked something that was changing in Newcastle's history and was all a bit tongue-in-cheek, the whole penis tower. But, to then give someone a memento in terms of producing a bottle opener. One of the guys in our office was there only with me, and he said, Marty, we should do something are you going to do something to mark the end of the tower? And our office does look towards the old penis tower and lobbies. And I've gone, what about a bottle opener? And he's gone, well, where the hell did that come from? But, so, then we decided we're going to make bottle openers. So we allowed 1,000. I thought, over a 3 or 4 week campaign, 1,000 bottle openers, who the hell's going to, that's okay. And then we reached out to the Prostate Cancer Alliance and said, would you partner, as in all the funds go to you outside the costs? And there was no money from Oots, we didn't charge anything, but those things cost, I think, about $18 or $16 each because they're fully stainless steel. The thing was made in Newcastle, so we could have gone to China and made it for $10, but all that whole circle was important. So ended up raising 22 grand. We sold 1,000 in the first day. So I've gone, oh shit. Because the lead up process, because it was a mob in Sandgate, and they've gone, oh Marty, that's going to take us another week. I was like, oh, okay, rightio. So, but people were mindful. They accepted these things are coming because, well, most people did. Some people said, why have you waited till the tower's coming down to do this? And another one said, wouldn't you sell more if they were $5? So that's the other insight into Newcastle and social media too. Cancer Council is something we've supported for about 6 years. I lost my dad to cancer. And, again, it's a bit of fun. It resonates with us because it's got the balance of giving, but also a bit of fun. City of Newcastle Drama Awards. 7 years ago, so this is an organisation that represents 40-odd theatre companies in Newcastle. And it's a massive contingency that probably, I don't know how many people have seen a local show, but it is a massive contingency that is pretty under the radar. And they were pretty much broke. They owed 7 grand. My wife and I came on board as committee members. Oots stepped in and said, let's help. So the end result now is they've actually got 20 grand in the bank. All their shows are sellouts. They had a dwindling number of people coming to the shows, and now they sell out. We can't this year, but they would sell out 500, 600 people, which was just unbelievable. When they had struggled to get the people nominated to attend the event 7 years prior. So I've got to be a little bit controversial on this one in the sense that I would like to see. We talk about brand. I'd like to talk about Newcastle's brand too, and I'd like to see us stepping away from some of our dependency on football and some of these sort of old school approaches. I'm not saying they don't have a value in our environment in our world. But I still value the steelworks, I still value our coal heritage. But if we're to survive as a region, we've got to look forward, and I think innovation, creativity, arts, heritage, these are the things that need to make up our brand going forward. And I still struggle with the football thing, given some of their ethical issues in terms of the, treatment of women and so on, and also that they're supported by clubs that are, making millions of dollars from gambling. And I just think, we can probably evolve from that a little bit. I think, we could look to a better brand for Newcastle. So that's also why I'm passionate about this sort of stuff, to go, okay, how can we take Newcastle to another level? So that's a video and a campaign we did that we launched on the 1st of June. As soon as we were aware that the restrictions were going to lift on travel, we just wanted to do what we could do to support local hospitality. We didn't shoot all that. I reached out to multiple video people, some of it's our footage, but we just wanted to put something together that we could give back. So no funds came from anyone, but we just wanted to be proactive in an area to help people in hospitality. I'm mindful of the time, so we'll move forward. Bob did touch on Together Not Alone. The idea with that was basically, in that time of difficulty, how can we put out some positivity? Talk about innovation, creativity, kindness, and that sort of thing. So we, with the Herald and then the Greater Bank came on board as well, put out 22 stories. One of these quick three were the ones that I sort of stood out to me. Anahito's, most people may be aware of or not, but it's in Steel Street. They were struggling. They were 80% down, they put staff off and so on, but still, they produced soup that they then gave the proceeds to victims of domestic violence. So they recognise there's going to be an issue with people stuck at home and maybe not getting on with each other. So they raised $5,000, and I just think that's amazing. That resonates with it. If you go back to brand, Eric's about street food and being grassroots and all that sort of thing. So I think that is an action that resonates with his brand very well. And not for publicity. I mean, the fact that we picked it up and promoted it, he's grateful, but he never did it for any level of publicity. Mollycock, Comsteel, they're at Mayfield. I mean, I just think this initiative was great too. They gave $50 to 500 of their employees to then spend at designated shops in Mayfield. So, I mean, again, that's just a smart move. They get a bit of kudos because the Herald run a story and so on. The staff that are struggling got $50 to spend at the Bottle-O or wherever, and the local businesses have benefited. So again, I just think that was a brilliant initiative. Port Waratah, they made up kindness packs because a lot of ships were here, but the sailors weren't allowed off. So, they had Kit Kats and so on, and they made sure that the seafarers were given that as part of that process. And I think, again, that's a big organisation that doesn't have to do that, and I just thought that was a pretty cool thing. So I would just like to say this is about feel, and I'd like to encourage everyone to consider that, we should, and I'm sure you already do, feel extremely proud of where we live, and I think our potential is enormous. The more that we do for our own businesses, so you do have to start somewhere, get your own business up to date, get yourself in a stable position to then give back. and then broaden that further to say, okay, how can I engage with others in the community to make Newcastle and our region better again? So I'd encourage you all to feel proud about that, even to the extent that I wrote a little poem.
Oh, Newcastle, you magnificent beast. You're a smorgasbord of beauty, a veritable feast. I immerse myself in your clear waters and sands of gold, whilst cherishing your historic magnificence of old. You nourish me through creativity, culture and art, feeding my soul and kick-starting my heart. From your proud spire high on top to the anticipation of waiting for your ball to drop, you are an open smile on a friendly shore, welcoming thousands who will come to adore. From your heart, nothing is far away. The splendor of the lake, valley, and bay. You grow smarter each day, forever learning as your skies are caressed by the wheels of progress turning. As my feet massage your majestic spine, I take unbridled pride in knowing you are mine. You excite me like no other. There will be no other lover. If I had children, you would be their mother. Oh, Newcastle, I love you so.
So, thank you. So just to close out, this is the poor man's Anthony Robbins sort of thing where you've always got to get a takeout. What's our takeaway from that? So we're going to have some Uber treats that'll be handed out to everybody. A little gift there. So in that box is a little booklet we've put together with some practical approaches to brand and so on, some things you can apply, plus some other gifts. But just in closing, I'll say thank you very much. I want to say thanks to Bob, thanks to Amy, thanks to Jalinda and Sue. Thanks for your tolerance for going, why the hell do you want to do it that way? So if we can all leave today hopefully happy and feeling you got at least $38.50 worth, that would be awesome. And I encourage you to go and have a feel. Thank you, everyone.